What's up YouTube? So today I want to talk about something which may seem very inconsequential, but it actually makes a huge difference to your Psytrance basslines, specifically in the faster tempos. So I'm going to show you a couple of examples and show you kind of which bassline waveforms I prefer, and I want to break down the science a little bit as to why I think the phenomenon is the way it is. Anyway, without blabbering too much, let's dive in and have a look. So today I kind of want to talk about my favorite direction in which I like to have my saw waves ramp in a Psytrance bass. So this may seem super inconsequential because at the end of the day, when you hold a saw wave and you change, whether it's ramp up or ramp down, you don't really hear the difference on a held note. But there are a couple of differences, specifically with very staccato notes. So I want to show you the kind of biggest difference and why I think that is. So I've got a little thing here that I've prepared. Let's just set it to the kind of default that we generally see, which is the downward ramp saw wave. Okay, now let's check the upward ramp saw wave. So I'm going to play them again quickly in quick succession so you guys can really get a full picture of what's going on. It almost sounds like the upward ramp saw wave has a lot more punchiness in the low end. And I want to show you why I think that is. So if we look at how a saw wave is made up, you can imagine each of these bars being a different sine wave at a different pitch or a different harmonic of the root sound, which is also a sine wave. So the fundamental sine, essentially what we're doing, you can see here when we've removed all of the higher frequencies, in fact there are more, which we can remove over here. If we remove all of the higher frequencies, you can see it kind of starts to resemble more of a sine wave. When we invert the shape and then do it again, you'll notice that the sine wave is at a different phase now. With the upward ramp, we have the phase starting at the bottom and then going up to the top. And the other way, the lowest fundamental, or the actual lowest sine wave, starts at the top and then goes down. So if we break this down and look at it in the oscilloscope, with what's actually happening here with the sound, let's just solo this. So we have no kick here, and just the bass. And let's visualize this on an oscilloscope. So it helps to know how your plugin reads its phase as well. So for example, when phase is at 0 in Vital, it's actually reading from the middle point and not the beginning of the window. Whereas I believe Serum is the other way around, where 0 is the most left side of the frame. Does that make sense? So in Vital, 0 is this side of the frame here. So when we're doing the downward ramp like this, and the phase re-triggers at 0, which sounds the best, what happens is the first cycle goes downwards and then upwards and then down again. So we've almost got to wait down and then down, like a cycle and a half, till we get the full waveform. Does that make sense? Whereas here, if we ramp up like this, the first cycle is immediately the full waveform. Does that make sense? And I believe it's because of that. So like as soon as the transient hits, we've got the full waveform and we can identify the sound. Whereas we don't have to wait for a cycle and a half to be able to get the full waveform. And that's why I believe that this sounds better. If we think about the way that a speaker actually generates sound, it has to push forward and then backwards and then forwards and then backwards. And that kind of is replicated in the shape of the sound. So, for example, if we have the default downward ramp, like this, and now it's playing, if we look at the waveform here, the speaker actually has to go back and then forward for its first cycle. Whereas if we have it the other direction, ramping up like this, immediately the first cycle of the waveform is extruding the speaker outwards, so it's pushing a sound pressure level. Are you guys getting that? Okay, so yeah, I think that should pretty much sum up my explanation. And so you're also probably wondering, like, well, what about phase of the low end determined like by the kick and stuff? In my opinion, it's about getting the best sound rather than trying to shift the phase in the synth to adjust the mix. Does that make sense? Rather just have each sound good. Awesome. That is about it for today. Nice, short, and sweet. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to support me, the best way to do so is either through my Patreon or buying something from my store. All the links that you can find those things is in the description below. Anyway, if you haven't yet, please consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that like button. I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.